Okay, so welcome to Grow with Inbound. My name is Jessica Packer and I am the Chief Customer Officer here at Huble. I'd like to introduce you to our guest for today, Phoebe Scott, who is the Global Director for CRM at Avison Young. Hi, Phoebe.
Hey, Jess.
Phoebe is a treasured client of ours, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know and work with her this year at Avison Young, as they have embarked on a very exciting CRM journey. Her speciality is in developing brand strategy, growth strategy, and technology strategy that leads to sales and revenue growth domestically and internationally. A reformed attorney, and an aspiring psychologist and three-time entrepreneur. A single working mum with a 9-year-old daughter, 2 huskies and 3 cats. And she's passionate about and involved with animal rescue, a local farm animal rescue and international organisations like the African Wildlife Foundation. Phoebe, it's lovely to have you with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So I thought we could perhaps dive in just with a bit of background to the situation perhaps before Avison Young purchased HubSpot and embarked on the journey that you're on at the moment.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. And I thought it would be great to start off just talking about the approach you've been taking at AY of tackling some of the, CRM problems more like a tech company would as opposed to a commercial real estate company. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about why you're taking this approach and what the cultural shift you're striving to achieve with this is.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a lot of what you would call digital transformation at Avison Young. So, we're a company that has grown by acquisition. So we acquired all of these companies around North America and then the world that had different technology stacks, different ways of doing business. And in order to create that global brand and global feel and really all being part of one organization, we had to change a lot of technology in a short period of time. And that is challenging for people because it's, changes the way they do their work and their everyday life. And so doing that is there's a lot more appetite for change in the tech world, I think. And so trying to think about how do we make this an exciting change and one that people can embrace and that will make their lives better in the ways that we've started to see, consumer technology. That changes pretty rapidly as well. And we all enjoy that. But when it changes at work, it maybe is not as easy to deal with. So how do we talk about it and launch products so that people feel that excitement in their work life too? So that's a lot of it. And then the other piece is making sure we can always attract and retain the best talent. On our technology side, we're very good at that. On the real estate side, of course, but we want to also do that on the technology side and make it a place where we can get the best and brightest to come work and help us move into the future with even better products than we have today.
Absolutely amazing. And I think it's an incredible, I know we've spoken about it before. I think it's a brilliant approach to take, and I think also just such an incredible project to embark on. Digital transformation of that scale, I think, is just I think will be inspiring. I think for a lot of companies who are hopefully listening into this session. What were some of the key challenges that you were facing as a business when it came to CRM?
Well, we had several different, when I joined, I was told, we think there might be about 6 of different CRMs being used globally. And we started counting and we really lost count at 10 because there's, pockets of people here that are using a totally different system or maybe their own instance of a system. We had a couple of different HubSpot systems being used. And then we also had, CRMs that maybe haven't been updated in 10 years, but we're still using an old version of it. And that was a big challenge because when you have data living in all these different silos, you don't know the quality of it. It's not kept in the same way. There's no way to really compare it or aggregate it. You don't know who your clients are. You don't know where you're growing the fastest. You can put those things together by, kind of putting your ear to the ground and talking to people around the world, of course, but it's really hard to put data behind that. It's really hard to figure out how to project into the future and how to really feel confident about speaking to those really important points about, who are we and who do we know?
Yeah, absolutely. And did the pandemic add to those challenges at all?
I definitely did. I mean, people were coming into offices before the pandemic, and we were a company that was, some companies were kind of remote before COVID, but we weren't. And we were really, people were going into the office regularly and out and, on meeting clients out in the
Yeah.
world and talking to each other about who they were meeting and what they were doing. And of course, that all gets a lot harder when you introduce a, situation where everyone's at home all of a sudden. So it was kind of new challenges, but also a unique opportunity to make a lot of changes that maybe there wouldn't have been the time or the bandwidth or the attention to initiate before COVID, because business is kind of always running and running really quickly. So it gave us both new challenges and also new opportunity to address the challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know certainly we saw just a huge, it was so strange, just from one day you were all in the office together, and the next day, and for a much longer period than we imagined, suddenly we were all on Zoom and we're not able, and it just forced us into new ways of working quicker than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Sure.
So with more CRM systems than you could count, and obviously everybody working at home, what you coming into AY, what was it that you were looking at from a technology perspective that would facilitate better collaboration and I guess more kind of a unified CRM system?
Yeah, so when I joined, we had just chosen, we had a committee that had looked at a lot of different options and had just chosen to use HubSpot. And a lot of the reasoning was we want something that's easy to learn, that people can, adapt to, and that is easy to understand, and that has whatever level you are, you can kind of find something that works for you. You don't have to be an expert to get involved, but if you want to learn it at an expert level, you certainly can. And HubSpot seemed like the best system that met all of those needs. We also were looking for something that could integrate with all of our other plans. So we have quite a few different technologies being introduced, that have been introduced over the past year and a half, and that we're continuing to introduce. And yes, there's a lot of new products coming out, but we want them to all work together into an integrated system as much as possible. So we're getting away from that kind of fractured and siloed environment and into this more holistic one. And so it's really important to us that it would be able to support that, but also it would be something that we could grow and work with in-house, and we could grow a team to work with it without having to get special certifications or maintain, attend certain kinds of classes. We really wanted to be able to do it ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think everyone I speak to, HubSpot is just such an easy platform to use. And I think it's fantastic as it's gotten bigger and bigger, that's just remained a kind of integral part of their system, which is great. Amazing. So I think we touched on this a moment ago, but the rollout of HubSpot within AY is part of a much larger global digital transformation project, with the goal of kind of bringing teams and regions onto the same system and to obviously streamline this tech stack. For a company of AY size, that's no mean feat. So what was the kind of, there must have been every reason to stall it. What was the trigger for the decision? What made the company kind of just say, right, no, that's it, we've got to do this?
I think there was just a recognition that we're growing and we're continuing to grow pretty quickly. So we have to start the change before we get too big to change. And we have to really commit to it. And so I think there was a commitment to bring in kind of fearless people who are willing to, do hard things and go into kind of uncharted places and have hard conversations and really be advocates for the change. And so I know there's, everyone I've met here who's, been part of rolling out one product or another meets that description, is somebody who is really forward thinking, committed, but also I think there's our company, Avison Young, has a really nice way of balancing leadership and goals and being very action oriented with also being very empathetic. So it's a very kind and very humanizing culture. And so I think there's a kind of a perfect marriage of those two, where you can say, yeah, here's the future and we're going there, and we're going to kind of fearlessly go there and keep taking bold steps. We're not going to slow down just because change is hard, but we're also going to listen to everybody's concerns, and we're going to understand their desires, and we're going to understand what experiences they may have had before that make them hesitant about the change, so that we're really listening to the people who have thoughts about it, or if they're excited about it too. We want to hear what everyone's genuine reactions are as we continue moving forward.
Right. And I suppose that creates a safe space as well for, I mean, I know that in your podcast with Darren, you talked about the fact that you needed to have the attitude of the plane is going to be flying and you're going to potentially need to make adjustments to it while it's still in the air. I suppose having that culture means that that's a supportive environment, that I suppose if the wing does get put on slightly incorrectly, that's okay, because we can then work on that change again. And I suppose a safe space to make mistakes, but then to rectify those quickly.
That's right, absolutely. And our different groups work together and interchange kind of seamlessly. So our innovation team and our marketing team and our CRM team and our finance team, all these teams that touch technology and use technology, we all work together, and we jump in and help each other put a new wing on when we need to. So it's I think without that kind of collaboration, it would be hard to do what we're doing. But when you have it, you can keep adjusting as you go.
Absolutely. And I've just been amazed at how much you have managed to achieve within the time frame. I think, it seemed like a really big amount to achieve within that time frame. But I think just the constant momentum has been really noticeable. It's been awesome to be a part of. So I guess moving into the details, perhaps more of the actual rollout. I guess a big part of the CRM, and I know we spoke about this a lot, I believe it was one of the challenges you had with some of your other CRM systems, is user adoption. So I guess my question to you is, how did you at AY plan on tackling that problem of having a brand new shining tool with all of the bells and whistles, but obviously not having a situation where you've got a Ferrari but it's left in the garage and no one is using it?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. It's one we are constantly addressing and readjusting our response to that question kind of every day. But a couple of things we did that I think have made a big difference and that we continue to build on is having experts around the company. So every office, every business line, we try to have ambassadors, so people that really know the product are learning it as new features as it comes out, asking the questions on behalf of their team, going back and really being at that true ambassador for their team, for the product, but also for their team. That's made a huge difference. And we also are working on our messaging. I think that's something that's happening more broadly at Avison Young, but it really applies to this digital transformation piece and getting user adoption up, is tailoring messages to our audience. So kind of goes along with the empathy we were talking about before too, is really understanding each group of people or each individual you're talking to, understanding where they are, where they're coming from, how to speak to them in a way that will best resonate, and giving them a chance to really speak up as well. That's made a big difference for us. So we have plenty of forums where people can come, they can freely speak their mind, and they can also know that we take action on what they do. So we keep, the same kind of momentum you were talking about with launching the product and, meeting all these metrics. We also do that with adjusting to user feedback. And I think that's another way that we also approach things like a tech company. We try to change quickly, and we try to be more nimble than a lot of companies are able to do. So we're responding to people in real time and letting them know their voice matters, and we actually care about their engagement and their enjoyment of the product. So yeah, I think all that together hopefully makes the difference.
Absolutely. And I suppose seeing that quick turnaround, giving feedback, seeing that implemented, I guess gives the users also a sense of it being theirs as well, rather than it being a system that's just been put onto them. If they can have that kind of interaction and engagement with how it's shaped and rolled out and customized for them, that must also give them then, that feeling of, okay, well, this is built for me, and this is here to support what I'm doing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's, if you have a technology team that says, hey, how can we make this work for you? What do you need? And then it's able to build you a customization or teach you how to use something to your needs and advantage. I mean, how exciting is that? Wow, how often does that really happen that you get that kind of catered care? So yeah, absolutely.
100%. And have you started to see an impact already? I know it's obviously been, I guess a matter of months that it's been rolled out, but have you seen any immediate benefits? I know obviously you've introduced with HubSpot a global process. What impact have you seen so far?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've seen a number of different things. We see people talking across offices in a way that maybe they didn't before, because when somebody in one office that maybe hasn't quite adopted yet or had the product rolled out a little bit later says, how do I do this? Or can you give me some advice on this? Obviously, we can do that from a technology perspective, but it's way better for people who are in the field to hear from others in the field about what works for them and how they use technology to enable their business. Because as technologists, we tend to just talk about the technology in and of itself, and that doesn't always resonate. So we do try to facilitate these conversations across markets and across business lines so that people can say, how are you using technology to amplify your business? And that creates some really interesting opportunities for conversations that I'm sure were happening before, but hopefully are happening even more, and with new people and in new forums than we would have before. So I think that's probably one of the greatest changes we've made, and we also have insight into our business. I mean, we're still getting more of that, and we're trying to figure out, now that we have all this data, what do we do with it, and what are the most exciting ways that we can, kind of use and interpret it for a variety of different purposes, but the collection of the data and aggregation of it, because we did pull information out of these other disparate systems that we moved off of, and we have it formatted in the same way, sitting in the same place. I mean, that might not be exciting to everybody unless you're kind of a data person, but once you turn it into some beautiful visualizations and some, really quick one-liners that, hey, here's our, how much business we did in this vertical last year. Here's how fast we're growing. Here's how competitive we are in the space. Here's who our biggest clients are, and here's, how we won those clients. I mean, that kind of thing, those kinds of metrics that we weren't able to say, no, we're certain of this. We have all the data to prove it. Huge change for us. Very exciting stuff that we're only just kind of tapping the surface of.
Absolutely. The ability to make those data-driven decisions, on such a large scale is, as you said, very exciting. Perhaps more so for people who work within CRM systems day to day. But like you said, when those top numbers are then visible to leadership, it's a huge impact.
It is.
Amazing. So looking back at this first phase, then obviously it sounds like there have been some really great wins. Do you have any advice for those listening into us for looking back? Is there anything you would do differently? Is there anything that you did that you think actually was fantastic and really had a great impact and would be something you would recommend? What advice would you give to people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the greatest things we learned is that we can learn from the people who are using the software before we've even launched it. So yes, we're moving off of some older systems that we don't want to use anymore, but the business processes that were put into place in those systems were really strong and really great. Mm-hmm. And in some places, they were really similar to a business process in another place or in another business line, but nobody really had that kind of oversight to see it, or that 360-degree view to say, hey, you know what, you're kind of doing something really similar to over here, and so you can first of all have a lot in common and maybe use the same tool to the same advantage, but also learn from each other. I mean, if we are looking at a system that really works for a group of people, let's understand why. What is it about that works for them, and can we take that as a learning and say, well, we want this to work just as well for everybody else. So let's learn from a group that did a good job, instead of just saying, oh, we know best. We've got some great technology to roll out. It's cool. It's interesting. It's cool. It does all these amazing things. So let's get everyone to use it. We can learn much more from the business than we can from technology and from the product. So I think that was probably one of the greatest decisions we made, was to say, let's really talk to people before we design the system and understand how to build it based on their expertise, the people who are in the field doing the work, and then roll it out accordingly. And that's worked for us. And I think no matter what business you're in, it doesn't have to be real estate. It could be anything else, retail or entertainment. It really doesn't matter. Learn your users and the experts in the field, talk to them, find out what they know, and then build the technology to take advantage of their expertise and to amplify it.
I think that's great advice. I think focusing on the business process and how it's about the user, not just here's a collection of great features and tools that are part of this technology platform, is a really great way of looking at it.
Thanks.
And has having a partner along this journey helped you?
Yeah, very much so. So we started partnering with Huble, right when we first made the decision to use HubSpot. HubSpot recommended Huble as a very strong international partner. And so we knew that we were going to be growing the team while we were launching the product. We weren't going to be starting with a fully stacked team. And we also knew we were going to be launching in other parts of the world where we have a lot to learn. We have to move quickly, but we also have a lot to learn. And it made a huge difference for us to be able to work with an international organization that has experience working with other clients and tackling similar issues in other industries. We can learn, again, just because we're in real estate doesn't mean we have to do everything the way other real estate companies do. We're actually trying to function more like a tech company and more like, some of these other companies and other verticals that have globalized really successfully. And so I think working with you guys, working with Huble, has made a huge difference in that regard, because you could fill in the gaps for us and also give us best practices and, kind of reassure us and our users that, we can get there no matter, how long it takes us to kind of align our internal processes. We can still keep moving and keep that really important momentum that you need to do something of this scale.
Absolutely. I think our CEO refers to it sometimes as a flexible waistband. Just having someone there to provide some additional support as and when you need it can be really helpful.
Absolutely. That's a very funny but also a perfect way to describe it. So I'm going to have to steal that going forward.
And I suppose aside from the partner side of things, obviously you made the decision to go with HubSpot. And I think HubSpot is growing into more and more markets, is growing to be a platform that it will support companies of all sizes. What was it that you felt differentiated HubSpot for you guys? What made you make the decision to go with HubSpot as a platform, and how did you feel that it best? Why was that the platform that best supported your goals as a company?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are quite a few reasons, but one of the strongest ones was it felt like HubSpot was at the same place as we are in terms of that kind of sweet spot between being the right size to be able to have influence and put real investment behind products and be scalable, but small enough and also have the right attitude to be willing to change and be able to change and be able to adapt to clients' needs. So we're in that sweet spot ourselves, and we're continuing to grow. And I hope we navigate it well, but we may grow out of that sweet spot, and we may get big enough that change gets harder, and that may happen with HubSpot as well. It certainly is growing very rapidly. Both are. But when we met each other, it was like, okay, we can put some real resources behind this, and we can also stop and listen to each other and creatively course correct together along the way. And that's exactly what the relationship has been like. So we've been able to work together to kind of visualize and iterate on the product and on the future as we've gone. And that's just something that for us was critical to be able to make this kind of a change. We need our partners to be able to really listen to us and adapt with us. And HubSpot was the only option. I mean, it was really the only group that made us feel like that was going to be possible, and we were going to have that kind of a voice throughout the contract.
Awesome. I guess one other thought I had was, I know open, it being an open system, the simplification of it, we've talked about a lot. It certainly feels like the customization, perhaps Salesforce, if we take an example, there's so much customization that you can apply to it. But it, sometimes I think it can get sometimes people into a pickle because there's so much customization that can be applied. And it's something certainly we've seen a lot as a HubSpot partner, that there's this initial kind of reticence of, what do you mean I can't fully customize the platform? But I think certainly I feel like we've seen a lot of those benefits when it comes to how a why views the platform. Actually, that simplicity and that consistency has actually been a benefit and a real benefit.
Oh, absolutely. I think when you customize too easily, you don't have to ask why enough, and you don't have to make sure that the why is strong enough for the level of change that you're making. And as we've been talking about, change is really hard for people. So when you have a product that is changing constantly and changing in ways that requires them to learn new things, or challenge their understanding, or it could turn on blinders to 90% of the page because only 10% of it is relevant to them, that is not a good way to teach people to appreciate technology. I think the best technology we've seen in the consumer space and in many other arenas in the past 10 years has been simple. Even if it's extremely complicated behind the scenes, what we deal with is simple, and it's really easy for us to get to what we need. And I think the way people make a very complicated and very useful product simple is by making sure that there's always a really strong why behind every single decision that's made. And so I think HubSpot, the way that it is designed and the way that it is customizable, but it is, within boundaries. And when you go outside of those boundaries, you have to have a really strong reason to do it. That forces making those really sound decisions based on a very powerful why.
Absolutely. I love the way you've put that. Fantastic. So looking ahead then, there's obviously still a fair amount of the project to go. What's the next set of goals for you now? What does the next 6 months look like?
Yeah, we are currently rolled out across North America, which was a huge feat for us. But we are planning on being having one global CRM. So our next plan is to start launching with our colleagues in Europe. And I'm actually in the UK right now, meeting all of our team here and planning for our UK rollout. So that's a big part of our plan, is to bring all of our colleagues on board and make sure that we give them kind of that global forum to really feel like one brand and one company, and to share that information across borders. And then the other part of it is to integrate with other software. So as I mentioned, we work really collaboratively with our marketing team, with our finance team, with our innovations team. And so we all have products that relate to the customer, relate to how we work with clients and who we know and what services we provide for them. And we really want all of those to talk to each other and to share information, and also provide the users with one kind of unified experience that's seamless. And so that's gonna take some work, some integration and some planning, and a lot of asking why and how. And so that's going to be our next focus for the next at least year and beyond.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess looking even longer term, aside from a lot of champagne and I think a very, very long and well-deserved vacation, what are the long-term goals? Once you've got that one system in place, have you thought much about kind of what will be the next step from there? What are you hoping to achieve?
Absolutely. There's quite a lot we can do. So one of the things we're doing is growing our affiliate network. So we're bringing on a lot of companies in other parts of the globe that we haven't quite touched yet, so that we can have a footprint in different places. And so we can start to learn about business in different parts of the world that are still, kind of new and exciting to us. So that's a big part of it, is to really keep expanding and keep growing into everything that real estate can become and is becoming, to get better at learning about the needs of the future. And I think, obviously the last couple of years has shaken up every industry and surprised everyone. And we all had to kind of figure out how to think fast and, make decisions about where the world is going. Real estate was absolutely that way, and it's changed dramatically. People, a lot of people will say when they, hear I work in commercial real estate, oh, well, that must be kind of a shrinking industry. It's like, no, actually not at all. It's just growing maybe in ways that would be different than what people were predicting 2 or 3 years ago, but it's growing very much. And so, one of the things we're doing, we have a strategic initiative to really learn more about the flexible office culture and where that's going and how that's expanding across the world and what the needs will be, environmental and sustainability. There's a lot of areas that are just, and also industrial spaces as we, have door-to-door delivery service that is reaching the entire globe and also changing the way that happens. So as the world is changing and real estate is adjusting and changing as well, we really want to be able to use our CRM and our knowledge about our clients and our knowledge about our, from our people. I mean, we have the, as we've been talking about, I mean, our people on the ground, the people who are in the business, they're who we should be learning from. So now we have this opportunity to really learn from them and understand what trends can we put together? What can we predict? How can we envision the world of the future and start to build and plan to get there together? So I think there's quite a lot on the plate and a lot that's next for us, and just excited to get there one step at a time.
Absolutely. And at the pace that project's been going, I think it seems like you guys will be there very soon. So to wrap things up, because I know we're approaching time, sadly, although I could happily chat for the rest of the afternoon. If you had one piece of advice for those who are listening in, perhaps they're considering a similar CRM migration project next year, what would your advice be for them?
I would suggest to just start, take a step. The first step you ever take is the hardest with any project. Get buy-in from people at every level. You really have to have, every group that's going to touch the project has to be fully supportive of the vision and where you're getting, because it is bumpy. Rolling out CRM is hard because it is, all the things we've discussed, all the challenges we've been talking about. They're very real. They're very real for people, especially now in a time that we've all dealt with more change than maybe most people would have liked to, or anybody would have liked to for the past couple of years. So really realizing that change is going to be hard. It's going to be, there's a very heavy personal, emotional, psychological side of a CRM rollout. And so be prepared for that. Really listen to people and be prepared to approach it with that genuine, caring, empathetic ear, but just take a step, whatever the first step is, take it and then commit to continuing to move. I think the concept of momentum has come up a couple of times, and I was just talking about this with a colleague yesterday that, you can feel like I need to stabilize. I need to get stable before I take a step forward, before I try to grow and change, because I'm not ready to unless I feel totally solid on my feet. But if you're trying to learn a new activity, like, I learned to surf during the pandemic, and that it's a great analogy to surfing. If you're trying to get stable on a surfboard, you can't do it going slowly, or if you can, it's really hard. The faster you go, the more momentum you have, the more you stabilize, and the easier it is to actually stand on your feet. And I think that applies in this kind of change and rolling out products like this as well. It can be scary to take the first step, but keep going, gain some momentum, move quickly, and it actually makes it easier to stabilize and to feel comfortable and to, get where you need to go.
Fantastic. I love that, and a fantastic analogy for us to wrap up on. Phoebe, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you, and this has been a fantastic session.
Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you as well.
Awesome. And for those of you who are listening still, thank you so much for sticking through the entire session. I really hope, and I'm sure you have, gained lots of insights from Phoebe and the experience she's had so far. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jess. everybody.